welcome to the big fight. Corruption is something that has always been something which is a source of major concern for all Indians. It's right back in the headlines thanks to the Commonwealth Games, but actually it should have probably been in the headlines all along. So today on this episode of The Big Fight, we're not only going to focus on the Commonwealth Games and the corruption linked to it, but we're going to ask a slightly broader question. How can we eradicate corruption from our country? What are the steps that we actually need to take? And we have been able to assemble right here in the studio some of the biggest experts in the field to help us really thrash this out once and for all. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Ashish Nandi, sociologist, author. Tell us at some point whether it is somehow intrinsic in Indian society and our genes to be corrupt, or is it not? So I'm going to be asking that question to you. Arvind Kejriwal, activist, one of the people behind RTI, founder member of Parivartan, has been trying to make a change for quite some time, and I know you have specific ideas of what can be done. As does Rajesh Kalra, chief editor and head of language initiatives at Times Internet Limited. So P.S. Bava, it's great to have you with us, the chairman of Transparency International and a former IPS officer, which is also of some importance. I don't think Transparency International has India very high on its list of clean and corruption-free countries. Tell us how we can change that. Also here with us in the studio, great pleasure to welcome Mr. Sudhir Kumar, who's a former Vigilance Commissioner, and therefore can tell the steps that he took and what else you would like to see done. And we have some very special guests joining us via satellite as well. Chris Dev joining us from Chennai. He's a management consultant and a social activist. One of the people behind the concept of the zero rupee currency note, which has actually been fairly effective in shaming some people out of asking for bribes. So great to have you with us. And also joining us, actor Gul Panag, who you will recall has been running a full campaign on Twitter and other areas, saying that once the Commonwealth Games are over, we must start focusing on corruption. Now, that has happened. Gul, tell us how the campaign is going to go from here and what else we can do in society in general. So before I come to you, all of you, on the broader question of corruption in society, the Commonwealth Games in particular and the inquiry into it, would you have a viewpoint on how it's going and should it be changed?
You see, I personally feel Shunglu committee is merely an eyewash. I mean, is the government trying to say that all the existing agencies are ineffective, CVC is ineffective, CAG is ineffective, CBI is ineffective, and therefore they need a Shunglu committee? And secondly, under what law has Shunglu committee been set up? Because if Shunglu committee asks for records from some department, and if they refuse to give the records, what powers does Shunglu committee have? What powers does Shunglu committee have to examine the officers? So I personally feel that Shunglu committee is completely an eyewash. We are not realizing that this is basically, they are just buying time, and after 3 or 4 months, the heat of the media would be over. And
it'll all be covered up. Do you agree with him that Shunglu committee did not have been set up?
Yeah, I would actually address the issue in a slightly different manner. First is, do we have a problem with the projects relating to CWG and the expenditures which have been incurred? Those who had been assigned the responsibility for carrying it out will have to be held accountable.